Welcome to Leisure Gamer Network, a home for working professionals, students, parents, or anyone else with a passion for gaming but have time constraints on when you can play. We review games after an hour of gameplay to see if they grabbed our attention and are worth your time playing. Dungeon Siege 3 is the console debut of the normally PC-based series started back in 2002. A dungeon crawler type game with some RPG elements means that you can expect fairly linear gameplay, combined with plenty of skills to customize and tons of loot to discover. Since this installment was developed by Obsidian Entertainment, a different company than the original, the game does have a different feel to it as they accommodate for home consoles by restricting the old class and party system. The story follows one of 4 descendants of the 10th Legion, the noble army protecting the world before it fell apart through civil unrest after the death of the king. The venerable Odo, who is the story's narrator, works to rebuild the Legion so they can drive the evil from the land that has crept up in the Legion's absence. The story is revealed differently depending on which character you select, mostly through the NPCs you'll encounter, making a slightly different experience when playing each character. You don't need to play prior games to enjoy the story, and it succeeds in being engaging enough without being over the top, which is unusual for a fantasy game. Both the story and dialogue are believable, and the delivery is nicely done. The dialogue sequences are fully voiced and are shot over the shoulder of the main character. This has a cool feel to it, but the camera is fixed, so you can never see your own character speak, which bothered me after a while. During the interactions, certain words were emphasized, leading me to believe that if I completed quests for the characters, my actions would have consequences. However, nothing has proved this to be true so far. I'd have to play more to see if my actions carried weight in the world. Even though the characters have predefined classes, there is plenty of customization to do. Each character has 2 combat stances, one that's best for single targets, and one that's better at damaging multiple enemies. There are also 9 unlockable abilities for each character, 3 for your first stance, 3 for your second stance, and lastly 3 for defense and healing. It seems simple enough, but then you can customize each ability into 2 different directions through proficiencies. However, you only have a limited number of points to spend per ability, so you can never max out both directions, leaving the choice of route 1 or 2 to better match your playstyle. After all that, there are also talents, which are cross-functional skills that can be leveled up to increase the overall performance of your character. The art style is inspired from the original by clearly looking animated rather than photorealistic. Overall, the graphics aren't outstanding, but they work for the type of feel the game is going for. There are some cool spell animations, and in the thick of battle, the sparks really begin to fly. While you do have control over the camera, the game does a nice job of fading certain sections of the level so your view isn't obscured, which is a must in a dungeon crawler. The environments were pretty, but I was expecting more expansive open spaces to give contrast to the tight corridors of the dungeons you'll be exploring. The only graphical hitch I encountered was in town the camera shuddered along like the frame rate was low. The user interface isn't anything new, but it is clutter-free and easy to navigate. In fact, for inventory management, the game does a good job of highlighting which items are both new and better than others, so you can quickly decide what gear to equip. For sound, battles are filled with clashing swords, flying arrows, and tons of battle cries. When your strikes land, they do feel like they have some impressive weight to them. The music is nice and adds to the overall atmosphere of the game. However, it didn't conjure up the same epic feelings the original Dungeon Siege soundtrack did back in 2002. The combat revolves around both basic attacks and special abilities, which are available depending on your combat stance and deplete your focus bar. Focus recharges as you use basic attacks, so combat is a balance of using and recharging your abilities. Additionally, power orbs can be built up through attacking to launch enhanced versions of your skills. For defense, dodging helps keep your distance from the enemies, while blocking depletes focus over time. Depending on your character, certain enemies or bosses are easier than others, so a large part of the difficulty revolves around your personal playstyle. There are 3 difficulty settings in Dungeon Siege 3, and your only safety net are the predefined save points. These are close enough to each other that you won't have to do more than a few minutes of replaying if you do die. Dungeon Siege 3 earns the rating of standard for difficulty. However, don't walk into a boss fight or quest ill-prepared, because you might not make it out alive. While playing through the single-player campaign, you can set your game to be open to other online players. Anyone can join the game regardless of where they're at in their campaign, because when they join, they can select one of the remaining characters and be immediately auto-leveled to match your progress. The same is true if you join another person's game. This makes jumping in and out of online campaigns really easy, but it also means that if you help another player, you won't get to save your progress. During co-op, the game scales in difficulty proportional to the number of players. This makes working together extremely important, and if someone isn't pulling their weight, it's absolutely impossible for the rest to pick up their slack. If you choose to do so, you'll spend a large part of your time exploring the towns and talking with NPCs. You can choose to delve into the story more deeply by reading lore spread around the world or chatting up the NPCs. If you don't care, you can simply blow through the dialogue sequences and get right to the action. Since the save points are close enough to each other and the plot is easily digestible, you can jump in and out of the game quickly. The best examples of this are during the online co-op, where you can join a game and leave all within 10 minutes without ruining the other player's gameplay. Dungeon Siege 3 earns the rating of Afternoon for time commitment. Another key aspect to a dungeon crawler is the loot system. So far, the loot does seem plentiful, and if you wanted to, you could spend a lot of time finding and organizing your riches. But don't expect to hold onto your gear for long, because it quickly gets replaced when you open a new chest. After a good run, you can expect to return to town with plenty of things to sell, and since the shopkeepers have no sense of supply and demand, they'll buy your copious amounts of loot without any questions.
Good day to you, friend. Come to peruse Petru's fabulous shop of wonderment and mystery? You shan't regret it, I vow.
Dungeon Siege 3 has some solid components, and if you're like me, then yes, you'll have fun accumulating the hordes of loot, exploring the nooks and crannies of the different levels, and tweaking your class towards your specific playstyle. But I wouldn't recommend it unless you're a fan of the genre, because although the charm of the game made me want to continue playing, its appeal might not last long with others. For your own thoughts on the game, post in the comment section below, and remember to subscribe to become part of the Leisure Gamer Network. Till next time, enjoy gaming.